then we have one response. If it's not met, we have a different response. So we will start using those order of operations in the upcoming lessons. We will not use it in this first lesson. In this first lesson, the only thing we are going to use is some basic text and cell formatting. And we're going to do that if we come back to that blank workbook. We'll start it in this blank workbook. Now, the project we're working on today is called a downtime report, where we're going to look at our downtime issues and then the reasons for those. So a couple of the things that you'll notice is we have our rows will represent different shifts, and they'll also represent different problems within a shift. So for example, the welder issue, the welder out of whip. We have CC clamp error, CC other, material error, a dry fit error. So there's lots of different errors or reasons that we can have to give us issues on our line. Now you'll notice that we have the first shift up here, we have the second shift with the same issues, and the third shift. And then within our shifts, we have our columns will represent days and weeks. So we have our days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It repeats, repeats, repeats. And then we also have those divided into weeks. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And again, all of this it's going to be very straightforward. We're not going to enter any formulas. We're not going to enter any data points within this. We're just going to create this sheet that we can hang out on our line, and then we can enter the information daily with a pen or a pencil. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is, again, being familiar with this, we're going to navigate to our blank workbook. And the first thing we're going to do is, I always like to start with a save as. Now, when we begin the worksheet, I like to save it as my first step, because it will allow me to do quick saves along the way, as opposed to doing a bunch of work and then saving it as something. This way we run the risk of our power going out or something and losing all of our information. Once we've got it saved, we can just keep clicking that autosave, bloop, 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 and it will continue to save that information. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my File tab, my Save option or Save As, and then I'm going to indicate where I want to save this. So in this case, I'm going to browse for a place to save it, and I'm going to go to my desktop, or if you have a flash drive, go to that flash drive. So on my desktop, I'm going to click. It's going to take me to the desktop. In the file name, I'm just going to change that to Downtime, Downtime Report. We're going to save it as a type in Excel workbook, and then save. And then you'll notice up at the top, we changed from Excel Sheet 1 to Downtime Report. Now, anytime we make a change, we can just come up here, click that little save button, and it will continually save as we click that. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to enter our title of this worksheet. So again, this is going to be called Downtime Issues, as you saw before. So we're going to type Downtime Issues and then enter. Now you'll notice that Downtime Issues, we typed it in cell A1, it ran across to cell B1. If we click in cell B1, we can see there's nothing typed in cell B1, even though it looks like the word issues is typed in B1. Do not be fooled. Don't type downtime in cell A1 and then tab over to type issues in B1. That is not how it's going to work. And then in cell A2, we're going to type the text downtime reasons. Downtime reasons. And then enter. All right, so we've got our title and then kind of a subtitle entered. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to enter the pound sign. So Shift 3 is going to give us the pound sign, because as you noticed before, we had 13 different reasons for potential downtime. Tab or arrow over to the next key. The tab key is adjacent to the Q on your keyboard. The arrow key is going to be in the lower right of your keyboard. And then we're going to type first as the ordinal. So 1ST, first, shift. And then immediately after that, in cell C3, we're going to type the word sun. And I'm going to make sure I type it correctly. Capital S-U-N, sun. Now, another thing with our cells is that within Excel, Excel is a very good identifier of patterns. So there's a lot of specific patterns that it will recognize. So for example, days of the week is one of them. I'm going to click on cell C3, so I have sun highlighted. And again, our active cell is C3. It shows us up here. We also have this bold kind of green outline around that cell. And then in the bottom right of that cell, we have, it kind of looks like a little square, like a little small box. This is called your fill handle. So with that fill handle, it's going to allow us to do some really interesting things and really cool things. But we want to make sure we have our fill handle. So this little thing that I have spinning around my sheet right now, this is our selection pointer. So our selection pointer, when it's this big white plus sign, this is going to indicate where we will do our work. So if I come over, bring this big white selection pointer to cell A7, click, L7 is now my active cell. This is where I'm going to work. So that big white plus sign is going to be, it's going to select a specific cell for us to be working in, and that's all it does. If I hover over that green perimeter and get that four-way pointing arrow, again, I'm just going to hold it there so you can see what it does. Now this is going to function very similar as a cut and paste would. So if I click my left mouse button, as I have that little four-way pointing arrow, and I drag over, and this time we'll say to L7, and release, now it takes it from cell C3 and it moves it to cell L7. So again, it functions as a cut and then a paste somewhere else. I don't want either of those, the big plus sign or the four-way pointing arrow. I want to hover over that lower right of cell C3, hover right over that little green box, and then get that little, the thin black plus sign, or a crosshair, I will typically call it. When I click and hold with my left mouse button and drag across to column I and release, you'll notice that it will automatically populate the days of the week in that same format. So if I did Sunday, if I type the text Sunday and then filled it across, it's going to type the full day of the week, as opposed to just typing the abbreviation. It will also do that with months. If I type the word January and fill across, it will give me the full names of the month. If I type Jan, J-A-N, pull it across, it will give me just that 3-digit or the 3-character abbreviation. All right, so now I've got that, my days of the week taken care of. I'm also going to come to cell C2 immediately above sun, and I'm going to type week 1, and then enter. All right, so we've got most of this sheet kind of ready to work with, I'm going to come to cell A4, and then in cell A4, I'm going to start identifying the different reasons for our downtime. So in cell A4, I'm going to type B4. I'm going to type welder hyphen space machine, and then enter. And then in cell B5, I'm going to enter welder hyphen out of whip, and then enter. And then I'm going to continue with those remaining reasons. All right, after I've entered those other reasons, again, those are in the worksheet that you have handed out, I'm also going to use a number in column A to identify that reason. So in column A4, I'm going to enter the number 1, and then enter, and then in A5, I'm going to enter the number 2, and enter. So like I said before, Excel will recognize patterns very easily. However, if the pattern is unclear, it doesn't know what you want. So if I just put a 1, for example, and I wanted to fill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I could pull down, and since I only have a 1 entered, it can't recognize it. It thinks it just wants to copy it over and over and over again. So I need to first indicate what my step is. And so the step is just indicating what my next value is. So if I did 1, 3, 5, it would recognize I want odd numbers. If I do 1, 2, it recognizes I want to go up one number at a time. So I can select 1 and 2, so click in cell A4, drag through cell A5, then get that little down pointing, or get that crosshair, pull down to cell 16, A16, release, and then now it's going to number that range. And again, so we've got 12 reasons and then a blank line for any unforeseen reason that might come about. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to center this week 1 text above this entire range, because all of these days are part of this week. So what I'm going to do is select cell C2. So make that my active cell, click and hold with my mouse button, drag across through cell I2, and then in my Home tab Alignment Group, select the option that says Merge and Center. And that's going to pull that text all the way across. All right, so once I've done that, now prepare to have your mind blown. I'm going to select cell C3, where we have the word sun. I'm going to click and hold with my left mouse button, drag across and up. So I have the range C2 through I3 selected. So C2 through I3, the week 1, and then Sunday through Saturday. Once I have that selected, I'm going to come over here, grab that fill handle in the bottom right of that range, and I'm going to pull this, click and hold, pull it across until we get to AD3. I'm going to release, and then you'll see Shazam! I'll zoom out just a little bit. You can see simultaneously as we did that, it recognized the pattern. So it went days of the week, Monday, Sunday through Saturday, Sunday through Saturday, Sunday through Saturday. And then it also recognized that we were indicating that each one of those groupings represented a week. So it also merged and centered and renamed our week 2, 3, and 4. So this is really an amazing thing that the software will do for us. All right, so I'm going to come back. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some of this formatting. So now as we looked at before, The weekends, we are not running these shifts, so we don't have to have space for the weekend, so we're going to shade them out. We're also going to shade out our days of the week. And to do this, we can do one at a time, or we can use what's called a non-adjacent selection. So for example, if I wanted to select E4 through E15, so E4 through E15, and then I wanted to select all the way through to next Tuesday, which is K4 through K15, I can click and hold, drag over and down, and release, and it selects that entire range for me. Now, if I only wanted to select the Tuesday, so if I only wanted to select the Tuesdays, I can select E4 through E15, let go of my mouse button, then hold Control and select E4, click and hold, drag through E15, and release my mouse button and my Control key. And then I've got that one column selected and then another column 7 away from it. And again, that's called non-adjacent. So adjacent is going to be cells that are right next to each other. Non-adjacent is going to be cells that are not next to each other. They're quite a distance away from one another. And so what I want to do is I'm going to format with shading all of the cells that I don't need in this little worksheet to be active. So I'm going to first select cell C4, and again, don't worry that it says machine in there, because if I click up here, it doesn't say it. I'm going to click and hold in cell C4, drag down through C16. Let go of my mouse button. I'm going to come over to cell I4. Now before I select anything, I'm going to hold Control, click in I4, drag down and over to include J16. Then release my mouse button. And again, now I have I4 through J16, that's Saturday and Sunday selected. And then again, I'm going to hold Control, click in P4, drag through Q16, and I've got that next range selected. And again, here I let my finger off my Control key for a moment, just so I can navigate to see the other cells that I want to work with. Because if I hold my Control key and then zoom across, it's going to zoom in and out, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to navigate over. Now I'm going to hold my Control key to where I can see the rest of it. Hold Control, click in W4 through X16, and then AD4 through AD16. I'm going to come up to my Home tab font group where we've got that little paint can that's spilling. That's our fill color. I'm going to click that little fill color arrow, and I'm going to choose the option light gray background 2, darker 10%. So it's going to be the third column, second row, and that's going to apply that shading. Now once I have that shading, I also want to include that days of the week. So I'm going to click 83, drag and hold through C3, and then I'm just going to come up and click that little paint can button again to fill that color. So now I've got that fill done. I'm also going to fill our shift and reason. So I'm going to click and hold B3, drag to A3, hold Control, A4 through A16, my fill color. I'm going to apply the black text 1 color to change that color. With it still selected, I'm going to change my font color because with a black font I can't see it. I'm going to change my font color to white background 1 and bold formatting. All right. Then next I'm going to apply a border to all of my cells. So I'm going to select A2. I don't want to include downtime issues. A2 through AD16. And then in my Home tab, Font Group, I'm going to click my bottom border, that little arrow, and choose All Borders. And that will apply a border around everything. Right, now I need to adjust the spacing of this because we can see the width of these cells makes this huge. We don't need it that big because we don't need these cells to be as wide as they are. Whoopsie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, come over here, get a down pointing arrow above the column heading for A. I'm going to click once with my left mouse button. It's going to select that cell, or select that column, excuse me. Then Control, hover over cell C, click and hold with my left mouse button, drag across through column AD, and then release my Control key and my mouse button. I've got that range selected. In my Home tab, Cell Group, I'm going to choose Format. And then in my cell size area, Column Width, and I'm going to change that from 8.9. I'm just going to type 4 right in that box, and then OK. And it's going to change the width of that to 4 instead of 8. So it cut that size in half. Then I'm going to select column B heading, right above that, down pointing arrow above B, click and hold, and in the same area, my Home tab, Cell Group, I'm going to click Format arrow, and then Auto Fit Column Width. And that's going to auto fit that, so it's right about 17.55. You can make it 18 if you want, but 17.55 is about where it is. All right. I'm going to select C3 through AD3 and center this text within that column. So my Home tab, Alignment Group, I'm going to select Center. It's going to center that text. I'm also going to give it a bold to apply bold formatting. And then in row 2, week 1 through 4, I'm going to apply bold formatting to that as well. Now I want to differentiate every week with a little bit thicker of a border. So I'm going to select cell C2 through I16. In my Home tab Font Group, I'm going to click that little border arrow, and I'm going to choose Thick Outside Border. And that's going to give it a thicker border around that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to J2 through P2. Again, now I don't have to look at my option. I'm just going to click because it's going to give me that same function I did before. And then Q2 through W16. Click that border button. Don't have to change it. And then X2 through AD16. Click that border. And then if you want to go ahead and do it to A2 through B16, you can do that one as well. All right. I'm also going to select A4 through A16. I want to center those numbers within that cell. So with those selected, Home tab, Alignment Group, Center. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my quick save again. All right, so now with all of those things selected, I basically have my sheet done. The only things I have left to do are copy that and paste it through the range. So I'm going to select A3. So I want to copy row 3 through 16. So I'm going to select A3 through AD16. I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to select A17 through AD44. Let me get back to it. AD44. And then paste. And then you'll notice what it did is it pasted 2 copies of that below. So now I have first shift with all this information, and then first shift, first shift. I want to change these other shifts to second, third. I'm going to select B17 and then highlight the text first shift. Just change that to second. And then in row 31, I'm going to change that first to third. So now we have our first shift, second shift, and third shift. Do a little quick save again. And then you'll notice before we had our, if we take a look again, we've got our first shift is black, second shift is blue, third shift is red. So we're going to come over and we're going to apply those colors. So second shift was blue, so I'm going to select A17 and B17. I'm going to give that the standard blue fill, and then A18 through A30, click that standard blue fill, and then the same thing, A31 and B31. This time I'm going to give it a standard red fill, and A32 through A44, the standard red fill. All right. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to use what's called a center across selection. So where we merged and centered before, this time we're going to apply a select cell A1. We're going to apply a cell style. So cell styles, our home tab style group. We're going to apply a title style to that. We're going to give it a bold format. And then instead of merging and centering it across that range A1 through AD1, we're going to select A1 through AD1. And then this time, we're going to go to our alignment launcher. And then in our text alignment, where it says horizontal, we're going to click that arrow and say center across selection and OK. And then it's going to center that text across that range. But where we have week 1, if we click in week 1, we're only in cell C2. If we click in week 2, we're only in cell J2. But if we click anywhere in row 1, you can see we've selected different cells. So it looks like we've merged and centered, but we've actually centered it across that entire selection, which gives us a little more freedom. All right. So now we have that project complete. Again, so we've got our shifts differentiated by changing the color. We've got our weeks differentiated by applying a bold formatting around them. We've got our days differentiated by using full outlines in all cells. And then we've also differentiated our weeks by eliminating the weekends. Again, so there was a lot of really simple steps in here. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to come to this down in this bottom where it says sheet 1, We're going to double click sheet 1. And then instead of leaving it sheet 1, we're going to type Downtime Issues and then enter. So we changed the Sheets tab from the name Sheet 1 to Downtime Issues, and then right-click on that Downtime Issues tab color, and I'm going to change it to the standard blue coloring. All right, and so that project is finished. You can go ahead and do a little quick save again, and we're done. So thank you for watching with me, and thank you for taking this lesson seriously.